affairs. Facts and opinion. Their future in our hands. Markets. Globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
And welcome back to the McIntyre Report, Australian National Review, independent media, ANR.newsfire, 24-hour news headlines. Bondi story is not going away. How come so many people do not believe the official narrative about the Bondi Massacre? Is Israel and Mossad becoming sloppy, or people waking up to how they do things behind the scenes? Was this a random act, or was there state players involved? Were the crisis actors paid to be involved? The official narrative doesn't make any sense straight away. It used to take years before people realized, hang on, years after September 11th, they're like, the official narrative can be debunked by a 5-year-old. Yet this official narrative already has been destroyed with a matter of minutes as the news age cycle, as it's got faster. No longer Israel and their PR specialists that love to spin things are used to newspaper cycles, which are daily, or TV shows, cable news shows, which are daily. But now the news cycle, minute by minute updates, and also now with millions and millions of global citizens, citizen journalists around the world that just love to be detectives, that actually show a political interest in the world that we live in, as they should, and just simply want to know the truth, have better bullshit detectors and go, hang on a minute, this Bondi Massacre sounds like complete and utter bullshit. The official narrative simply does not add up. That's probably a reason for that, because it doesn't. Let's have a look at what's predictable. We said here at Australian National Review before, like we always do, even before we start an investigation, even before we know much about it, we say we're willing to put up $1 million to bet who was behind it. We put up $1 million to say Israel, the fake state created in 1948, is behind the Bondi Massacre before we start investigations. How do we have such certainty of that? Well, we always tell people, if it's them, this is what you'd look out for. This is how to prove to yourself and see to yourself who's actually behind it. As we said up front, if it's Israel behind this, they will predictably blame a few random gunmen. It's always random, right? Never orchestrated weeks in advance and planning. And they will always frame and blame Muslims and Islamic terrorists. Why? Because they want you scared of Islamic terrorism. Now, they don't. What they will fail to tell you is that they're the funders of Islamic terrorism. They fund Islamic extremism. They recruit Islamic extremists. And they started ISIS. They funded and started Hamas. They've started Al-Qaeda. They use these as their proxy armies to go into countries that want to steal the assets and genocide. That way they can tell Westerners that are dumbed down and gullible and naive and just believe what's on the news, Israeli-controlled news, which is pretty much all the news, that we're going after terrorists. Despite the fact that no terrorists until Israel created the terror groups and put them there. Now, if people knew how Israel was created, it's not a biblical state. Once again, if you can do basic mathematics, 1948 is clearly not 2,000 plus years old. It's 77 years old. So a 5-year-old can debunk that Israel is the biblical Israel you read about in Bible school. So why the hell are some Christians, fake Christians particularly, standing with Israel? You'll also find out they're God's chosen ones. Well, Israel was created by 3 terror groups and the Rothschilds banking cartel family. The Rothschilds family are not Christians. They're not even Jewish. They're fake Jews from Khazaria, which is eastern Ukraine, southern Russia. I just wonder why they're fighting a war and waging a war against Russia right now, because Russia booted them out of there hundreds of years ago, their family, and they converted to Judaism to escape safely. They're satanic Luciferians. They don't believe in God, but they're telling you that God chose them. And maybe there was no fact checkers around in 1948, but I'm going to suggest to you, if you fall for that maybe you'll fall for anything. See what happens when people are emotionally triggered by a tragic event like Bondi Massacre is that people's critical thinking shuts right down. They go into fear or trauma, and they simply believe everything. They just stay tuned to the TV, and whatever the TV tells them, they soak it in. And it's terrible. Must be true. These big bad Muslims want to take over the world. No. The evil regime that wants to take over the world has motive, has capability, has a pattern of history and behavior, is the state of fake Israel. And we can put up $1 million safely, because if you could go to the casino and know that in the past, 95% terrorist attacks have been done by Israel, probably high. It's probably more like 99%. All wars are started by banker wars. And who are these banker wankers? Israel, founded by the banker wanker cartel state. So why would anyone stand with a bunch of banker wankers that satanic hate you? That's strange, isn't it? Talk about the power of manipulation. So some people think they know how the world works, but they follow CNN or Sky News or Fox News and or read the Fairfax media. They don't have a clue. But independent media is more likely to dig to the truth because we're actually looking for the truth. We have millions of citizen journalists that work for us freely, that send in information continually looking for the facts. And that's why fake news media you shouldn't trust, because fake news media sets out every day to deceive you, mislead you, because they're not media. It's Israel. They own your media and they're buying up even more and more media. Let's take a look at this.
But then, ironically, regarding the Warner Brothers deal and all related to Larry Ellison, of course, and the Trump family, why do they need to be so open about trying to take over the corporate news when arguably the news stations have all been patsies for CIA covert ops for decades since their inception? Why do they need extra control? Is it the Gaza genocide that has made them more aware?
I think that's probably a part of it, but I think the real reason is a little bit more crass, and that is just billions and billions of dollars in profits. Essentially, the entire American media is run by 6 corporations or oligarchs. Now it's going to be 5. And so the only place you can go is independent media, but so few Americans have the time or the inclination to seek out independent media. They just sit in front of the television, turn on CNN or MSNBC, now it's called MS Now, or Fox News, and they think they're being educated. In fact, they're not. They're being propagandized.
As I was just saying, so I say to Australians, the reason people died in Australia is because most Australians haven't got off their lazy ass and done some research who did the Bali bombings, who was behind the Port Arthur massacre, who was behind September 11th. They didn't do any independent research to realize that October 7th official narrative was also a lie. So because they failed to do that, Bondi Massacre happened. Because the same people that were behind all those and the bombing of USS Liberty to start wars, the same people that lie about everything to start a war, and they want to start a war with Iran, they can get away with this because it's so easily manipulate dumbed down Westerners, and there are some Australians that are dumbed down. If you take your news from mainstream media, you're not getting news. You're being propagandized. So don't go out there blasting over the social media what you believe is right about Bondi because you don't know shit. Ignorance leads to arrogance. It should be the other way around. It should lead to humbleness and go, actually, I've been a little bit lazy, been preoccupied with material survival or impressing my fake friends on Facebook and driven by significance and worshipping money that these fake Jews print and have me so motivated to become rich and famous. So I dedicate my life to them. And because I don't want to be out of favor with them, I'm going to stand with them because it's good for my business. So I'm too gutless to speak up for my own country, defend my own country. I'm going to defend Israel. Why are Australians defending Israel? Why are some of them? Why? You're a traitor to Australia? Why don't you defend your own country? Israel just slaughtered Australians, and Australians like, let's stand with Israel. Okay, let's stand with the common enemy of humanity. Is just slaughtered Australians, and then you're going, oh, you stand with it. You're a traitor. If you stand with Israel, you are a traitor to Australia. You're a traitor to the West. If you're an American and you stand with Israel, you are a traitor. If you don't like the truth, I'm sorry. But independent media, our job is to tell you the truth whether it slaps you in the face or not. Now, those who follow independent media have critical thinking already know this to be true. Don't you? Now, predictably, we told you if it was Israel, what would happen. They would not only do that they would have paid actors, and they would have the narrative come out. They would target a Jewish festival, target Jewish because they want them to be made out as victims. And also, of course, they're shooting Jewish. It wouldn't be Israel doing it because Israel would never shoot Jewish, right? On October 7th, 1,100 people were slaughtered. You were told Hamas killed them all. The majority of them were killed by Israel deliberately, unless you think Hamas has Israeli army tanks to blow up Israeli houses that killed Israelis that day, unless you think Hamas has Apache helicopters that burnt cars, hundreds of cars to a crisp at the Nova Festival that was relocated 48 hours before to the border. Unless you believe that. I mean, it can be debunked so quickly. Now, some of you still think that there was babies beheaded and baked in ovens and girls raped on October 7th. Why do you not know that that was debunked and it's absolute nonsense? Well, you wouldn't know if you saw fake news. So fake people love fake news because they love living in the comfort of fake lies and impressing their fake friends on Facebook. Sad way to live, isn't it? Australians standing with Israel, the common enemy of the world. Traitors. The very state that just slaughtered Australians on the beaches, that slaughter innocent children on a day-to-day basis in Gaza, and you think they won't slaughter Australians or Americans anywhere or anyone on the planet, including the Jewish. So if you're a Jewish and stand with the state of Israel, you're also a fool. Because I know a hell of a lot of Jewish that don't detest Netanyahu, detest this evil regime. And you have to look in Tel Aviv, the massive, massive protests. You know, most Zionists are not even Jewish. There's not even a Jewish thing. So if you're an Australian and not even Jewish and you're standing with the state of Israel, you should have a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and say, what the fuck is your problem? Why the fuck do you have any loyalty to this fake satanic state? And you can't even defend your own country. You won't even stand up for your own people. Like, I have Scottish ancestry. If Scotland was bombing kids and sniping them in the head not once but twice and mass murdering and starting wars and lying and causing all this fuckery in the world, am I expected to stand with Scotland no matter what because my ancestry is fucking Scottish? That's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard, so wake the fuck up. If you don't like me swearing, I'll stop swearing when Israel stops dropping bombs on children and blowing them into pieces. The only piece Israel wants in the Middle East is pieces of children's dead body parts splattered all over the place for their parents to collect them. And then they can bomb and machine gun death the parents as they collect them. That's the state you stand with. That's the state capable of mass murder, does it on a day-to-day basis, and did it in Bondi. And if you don't believe me, I'll increase the 1 million to 10 million. I will take you on. Put up your house. Go and ask your spouse now. I'll toss you for your house. If your big mouth is so sure, let's ask if your spouse is willing to bet your house on your big mouth. See, these white Australians, many of them won't even stand up for their own white race. But they'll stand with Israel, the common enemy of humanity that bombed children to death. I'm going to stand with them. Traitor. Traitors within our country. If you're a Zionist, you support terrorism. You're a global terrorist. If you're a Zionist, Zionism is a curse. Zionism is a disease. It's a cancer. It should be eradicated from Australia and from the West and from this world. The way to beat these enemy of humanity is simple. We don't need to be violent like them. We don't have to go out and put a prison fence around people and drop bombs on them and create terror groups to pretend we're going after terrorists. All we have to do is expose their fuckery. All we have to do is find out the truth and go, hang on a minute, this is bullshit. We're not going to buy their lies anymore. That's not right. We care for the truth. What are you doing interfering in our own country anyhow? Most of the Jewish in Australia live here quite easily, safely, and don't want to live in Israel. Leave us alone. All this fuckery. Yeah, we'll be back with some more after this ad break.
Globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
And welcome back, folks. Jamie McIntyre reporting live here for Australian National Review. Follow our 24-hour news headlines. ANR.news Bondi Massacre is still grabbing global headlines, possibly because many people don't believe the official story. Why are so many people questioning the official story? I guess citizen journalists around the world are helping with that because so many people now detectives and researching in real time. And the official narratives has been debunked and falling to pieces. Some might say Israel or Mossad is getting a little bit sloppy, or is it that people are waking up? Many people believe it's a false flag. We put up $1 million here even before we launched investigation at the very beginning, Australian National Review. As we do, we said this most likely is Israel behind it. Let's see if it is. This is how it will play out. This is what they will do. This is predictably what they do. And of course, we're able to tell people ahead of time, this is what's going to happen. Not because we have a crystal ball, but simply because independent media, we study critical thinking and we look for the facts. We don't swallow fake news media, which we know if you're not a geopolitical expert, you're too busy with material survival to study geopolitics and know how the world works. You simply have to go, whatever the fake news media is telling us, we know 100% that's a lie. So the exact opposite is usually in the direction of the truth. That's the shortcut for those who are out there that really confused and don't know what's going on. Let's listen to a particular gentleman. He's a political commentator from America. I welcome Julian to the show. Welcome to the McIntyre Report, Julian. Julian Martinez, you're a political commentator, a Muslim apologist. Obviously, you've seen what's happened in Bondi, the massacre there. So far with what you've seen, what's your feelings? Was this a false flag? Who do you think's behind it? And what do you think's going on?
I do think it's a false flag. How come ISIS never attacked Israel? People have never even thought about it like that. How come ISIS never attacked Israel? It's always ISIS who does attacks on Israel's behalf. Like, for example, when Biden wanted to withdraw from Afghanistan, it was always some ISIS attack in the play. So back on point. My whole generalized opinion is two wrongs don't make a right. Because although Muslims do have some form of grievances towards the Jewish people, because the Jewish people in Israel are always bombing Lebanon, Iran, Syria, Gaza, at a point in time, Egypt. They also went at war with Saudi Arabia at a point in time. So you see all these things accumulate, and you're just like, the Muslims need to retaliate one way or another. I'm not saying like I'm in favor of it, but it's going to happen. And the Jewish people come along because they own the media sites, they own pornography and things like that, but that's for a separate discussion. But back on point, they own these sites and they use these events such as the Bondi Massacre shooting to promote anti-Islam propaganda to favor its war with Iran, since that's what it's want ever since the Clean Break memo came out. It's saying that we want hegemon in the Middle East, and there was a set of countries, and the last one standing is Iran. So that's my generalized opinion on it. It's a false flag just to try to get the United States at war with Iran again, because the last time it happened was in June, which is going to happen again because they did not get what it wanted. Israel wants hegemon in the Middle East, and they did not get the regime change it wanted, and Donald Trump did not destroy the nuclear program at all. So we all see where this is going at the very end. A regime change war with Iran. So what's your opinion on that, sir?
Yeah, no, I think you're very accurate. And I think obviously your generation, which I got to give credit to the younger generation, you guys are awake to a lot of this. And that's why I think Israel is very concerned, because that's why they bought TikTok, I believe, the US version of TikTok to stop, because TikTok, many people are very anti-Israel because most of the world is anti-Israel. And most of the world, if they have human decency, don't support anyone dropping bombs on children. It's not a Jewish issue. It's a state of Israel. As I said earlier, I'm Scottish ancestry. If Scotland was dropping bombs on children and sniping them in the head not once but twice, just because that's my ancestry, am I meant to stand with Scotland? No, as a decent human being, I would be critical of that. And being critical of that is not making me anti-Scottish. Just like being critical of Israel doesn't make me anti-Semitic. It makes me anti-Christian. critical of Israel for valid reasons. So the rise of anti-Semitism, as Netanyahu is trying to suggest, warning Australia, if you don't deal with the rise of anti-Semitism, it's on you, and this is going to happen. It's kind of like a prediction, right, or warning of what they were planning to do anyhow. So yes, we believe it's a false flag. We tend to be right about these things, but I'm surprised how many people are now awake to this sort of thing, which I think is
It's
promising.
like it never worked.
Yeah, well, the question I was saying there before is that, do you think Mossad and Israel is getting sloppier, or it's just that they were used to an old news cycle, which was a daily news cycle, newspapers, cable TV, but now news is happening in real time. They hopelessly can't stop the younger people too being detectives on social media and looking for the clues and finding out the truth quicker.
My thing is that it's not that Israel's getting sloppier, it's that the younger generation is waking up. It's just the previous generation before Gen Z came in with the whole anti-Muslim propaganda because of 9/11 and going at war with Iraq, because Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and was a dictator, and he treated his people badly. So now we've gone out of that era, and now there's a new set of lens for the younger generation. We don't live in this post-Iraq war, post-9/11 world. We live now in 2025, where 9/11 was almost 3 decades ago. Now back on point. In this situation with the whole Bondi Massacre shooting, it was just very sloppy. Migrants moved to the Philippines, got some military training, and then moved to Australia with strict gun laws. How did they possess those gun laws? No. Guns? Don't know. It's very strict. So these people just come out with bolt action snipers, just start choo choo boom to random civilians. Claims of ISIS, which ISIS normally always shows up when Israel needs something done. So yeah, it's a false flag after all, and nobody's buying it since Jews lost the propaganda war. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there, and I think as time goes on, more and more people will start to see that. I think the important thing is we need enough people to see it. As I've said in the past, we've done investigations into the Bali bombings, which occurred a year after September 11th, where almost 300 Australians were killed in Bali. Our investigations discovered that Mossad was also behind that, and they framed then Islamic terrorists as well. But then what we weren't expecting to discover is that the same Mossad operatives that did the Bali bombing in 2002 were the ones that did the Port Arthur massacre. Now, you might not be aware, there was a Port Arthur massacre in Australia, I think in the early 90s. And what happened there is that's how they removed the guns off Australians. And that was done then. And there was a lot of talk back then that this was it was a conspiracy theory, that it wasn't a lone gunman, it was an organized hit. And we found out now, our investigations, that Mossad was behind that. So my point is, when we don't learn from history, if people only follow fake news and believe the fake narratives, if enough Australians had studied what happened in Port Arthur, studied who was really behind September 11th, October 7th, Bali bombings, London bombings, Oklahoma bombings, Christchurch massacre, Dunblane massacre, pretty much all the massacres and terrorist activities come back to the fake state of Israel. If people knew that, then this wouldn't have occurred. But because most people weren't awake and didn't learn from history, as these things will continue to repeat themselves. What's your views on that? Do you think, there is hope that more and more people now are waking up, that we may be able to put a stop to this state of Israel, and without a violent ending? I think we could just have to cancel them, and enough people go, we're not going to support Israel, and make it impossible for our political leaders to continue to support them.
My position is that Israel already lost the propaganda war. Ever since October 7th of 2023, The rise of anti-Semitism, it is true, is on a rise. There's people who hold strong feelings for Jewish people that are negative, and that is true. Because before October 7th of 2023, this information used to be very restrained. You couldn't say 271K on TikTok, you couldn't say Free Palestine, you couldn't say any other anti-Semitic things on these social platforms. And now we moved on post October 7th. Now Instagram Reels is more racist than everybody. Like legit racist. And they're saying that we should commit a genocide towards Jewish people, like literally speaking, and want to kill off 16.7 million Jews on the face of the planet. So yeah, Israel already lost if you have these strong feelings for Jewish people. And I'm sorry for my dog.
Not a problem.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. Anyhow, we appreciate your input all the way from America, and we'd like to have diverse views on this show, because I don't live in Australia anymore. We broadcast from Indonesia, which is the largest Muslim country on the planet. And I've been advocating and telling people that in the West, you're propaganda to hate Muslim people. This is part of Israel's agenda, and Muslims are not extremists. They're one of the most peaceful traditional values. Yeah, some are. There's Islamic extremism, but say in a country like Indonesia, very peaceful. But what a lot of people don't realize is Islamic extremism is largely funded and encouraged by Israel. Islamic terrorists, as you know, with ISIS and others, are recruited and funded by Israel to carry out their political objectives. So we thank you for your time today, and we look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
There we have political commentator, Muslim commentator there. Let's go quick ad break. We'll be back with some more after this.
News, current affairs, facts and opinion. Their future in our hands. Markets, globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
Back, folks. McIntyre Report, Bondi Massacre. As we predicted, if Israel was behind it, a state actor, not only would they blame an Islamic terrorists and Muslims without telling you that they're the biggest funder of Islamic terrorism. They created ISIS, Al Qaeda, Hamas, and so forth, and they use them as proxy armies as their agenda to genocide nations and steal their assets. A very common pattern. You only have to look at the Middle East. Is there a nation in the Middle East Israel hasn't bombed? How many wars has America had to fight out that aren't Israel wars? Besides none. So there's a pattern of behavior here. And Australia was warned by Netanyahu only recently. We also predicted that if Israel's behind it, they'll have paid crisis actors, and they'll be pushing the stand with Israel, dividing Australia between Muslims and Christians, and foolishly to stand with Israel like they're defending us against these terrorists, but they are the terrorists. So particularly done that. They're also done with the gun laws. We said they were trying to make gun laws stricter. Strange how we knew that was coming. And National Cabinet agrees unanimously to strengthen Australia's strict gun laws in wake of Bondi terror. Explain to me, so Australians aren't going around killing people. Israel is. Israel does it daily, sniping kids in the head not once but twice, deliberately killing kids and dropping bombs on them in Gaza. And then they send people over here to slaughter Australians. But we're the ones that have to have our guns taken off us. I don't know too many Australians that wake up every day and go, I'm going to go and shoot some people dead on Bondi. We don't have guns. They already took it off us after the Port Arthur massacre. So stricter gun laws, like really, that's going to solve the problem. That's going to stop state actors like Israel murdering Australians, murdering Jewish, Muslim, whoever they want, to create these sort of false flag attempts. I mean, it's utter nonsense. Suspicions fall on Iran for Bondi Beach terror. Now, of course, if Israel was behind this, this is a Tel Aviv, out of Tel Aviv. Wow, that's so not biased. Fall on Iran being behind it, which is absurd. Like Iran's going to care about the other side of the world, like Bondi. No, Israel cares for that. Is Iran going to frame itself? Like what motive does Iran have to do this? None. Capability, they probably have less or limited capability in comparison to Israel. Past pattern behavior, no, they don't, but Israel does. I mean, it's just absurd. Now, as you may have heard, Israel has taken over. We're, taking over the investigation of the Bondi Massacre. Okay, so a foreign state who's complicit in terror attacks, and it's most people think it's the most prime suspect, is now investigating itself to tell us that it didn't do it. But of course, they'll tell us it was Iran. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. PM announces gun law change as well. How did we tell you this was going to happen some time ago? Because it just does happen that way. Anyhow, so let's look at this.
The horror of anti-Semitism has been unleashed in Australia.
The government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
Australia, the country that I was born in, just experienced what is being called a major terrorist attack on Bondi Beach. The official narrative is that this was carried out by 2 Islamic extremists. But over the last 24 hours, a very large portion of the internet has been calling this something else entirely.
False flag.
False flag.
Was this a false flag attack?
Because when you actually look at the details, the official story does not sit cleanly with the evidence that we have so far. There are far too many inconsistencies to ignore. And we're talking about everything from delayed police response time.
20 minutes was 4 policemen there. Nobody gave fire back.
Google search trends spiking out of Tel Aviv days before the attack.
It's almost like it was planned, right?
And a so-called random victim who just so happens to be a high-level Zionist strategist, ranked among the top 50 in the world, actually.
And my only concern was where's my kids, where's my wife?
And then he comes on camera, he's the first on camera, they've got him all bandaged up. That's strange, though. Nurses or someone would generally wipe some of the blood off your face first, not just actually have it all smeared all over your face for drama.
Who also survived October 7 and moved to Australia just weeks ago to combat anti-Semitism. In his own bio, he describes himself as a Zionist strategist, so the obvious question then becomes, what exactly have they been strategizing? Now, predictably, the usual fluoride brain suspects have already emerged, come out of the woodworks to inform us that even asking these questions is stupid and hateful and demonic and just unhinged. But here's what's actually stupid from my perspective: shutting down a theory before you have even examined the information. So that is what we are going to be doing today.
Amy Dangerfield there, working with Rift TV, Australian, who I met many years ago, doing a great job there, asking the important questions that independent journalists will ask. We're not scared of debate. We're not scared of making a mistake. At least we're looking for the truth. Fake news media, fake journalists. What are they doing? Have they done any investigation? Nope. They just parrot a narrative that they're given to them by the intelligence agencies. Oh, the intelligence agency would never lie. The Israeli intelligence agencies, which control the Western intelligence agencies through the Five Eyes, including ASIO, they're really going to tell you and allow you to find out that Israel did it. They're there taking over the investigation for one prime reason, to cover up that Israel did it. They feed the fake news media, and many of the journalists are fake, not only fake journalists, they're media assets. They work for the CIA and intelligence agencies. They're not actually journalists. So if you listen to fake news, you're going to become a fake person. Life is based on fakeness. They're never going to tell you the truth. They have no intention to. They actually set out every day to deliberately deceive you. So if you're going to find out the truth, you're going to have to dig yourself, or just know whatever they're telling you is a lie. The opposite direction is the truth. That'll make it easier for you. Or you can follow independent media and come on the journey with us as we able to accurately predict if it's Israel, this is what they'll do, and how come they do exactly what we told you they would do. Now, of course, they want to now drum up the left side of politics in Australia. We'll be like, it's a far right-wing domestic terrorist. It's a far right thing. We have to, remove the guns, and they're the danger. And then the right side of politics will be like, it's a mass immigration, blah, blah, blah. It's the left government's fault because they let heaps of people into the country. Instead of going, so we're divided, left and right. Instead of going, hang on a minute, Israel is playing us. Israel is the nation that bombs excess Muslim nations, and Israel is the nation that is flooding the West with excess Muslim immigrants. So why don't we blame Israel for that? Why are Australians standing with Israel? They're a foreign state interfering with our nation. Why wouldn't you stand with Australia? Why wouldn't you go, I want to stand, I'm a nationalist, I'm a patriot, I understand with Australia, and I understand with Australia has some balls. I'm going to tell Israel to go fuck off. Get the fuck out of our country. Even if you're Jewish, tell them to fuck off. Jewish Australians have a good life here. If they wanted to live in Israel, they would fuck off to Israel. They don't want to live in Israel. They want to live in Australia because Australia is peaceful, or was, until Israel's fuckery is brought here. If Muslims and the Jews don't get along, we don't want you fighting about it here. It's not our war. Leave us out of it. This is Australia. Those who come here will adopt our values, will live the way that we choose, our values, not yours. If you want to be violent, fuck off. Now that's the message people should be saying to Netanyahu. Not allowing Netanyahu to boss our weak prime minister. We need a leader that tells Netanyahu, you go fuck yourself, Netanyahu. We don't answer to you. You're a war criminal. You belong in jail. And interfere with Australia ever again, will do false flags, and will go to war with you. But as I've said many times, we don't have to be violent like these violent, sick, satanic regime of Israel to win this war. We simply have to be awake and expose the fuckery. And enough people go, we're not going to tolerate this bullshit. We're going to cancel you. We're going to cancel Zionists. We're going to have Zionists fired from their jobs, blacklist their business, and ban Zionism in our country. The anti-Semitism isn't a threat. How can anti-Semitism be a threat? The so-called anti-Semitism is just a rise of awakening or rise of criticism, legitimate, valid criticism of dropping bombs on children in Gaza. If that's a threat, no, that's good. If that's what you want to call anti-Semitism, we need a rise of it. It would be great. Jewish people are protesting en masse against Netanyahu and the evil regime. So let's not try and make it anti-Semitic or the Jewish issue. It's not. If I was Jewish, am I anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel? So it's absolute bullshit. So I call out Australians. If you're foolish enough to stand with Israel, you're going to regret it in the future. We've been right pretty much about everything, and I'm predicting now, those who foolishly continue to stand with Israel when there's plenty of evidence highlighting they do this fuckery all around the world, and 95% chance I would put on it they're behind this, I'd actually put it at 99.5%. And anyone doubts that, take up our $1 million challenge. Prove us wrong. that Israel didn't slaughter people at Bondi Massacre. Prove us wrong. They didn't do the Port Arthur Massacre, Bali bombing, September 11th, October 7th, US Liberty, and Upton, others, Church Christ Massacre, Dunblane Massacre, so on, so on. If you don't know this stuff, the question's got to be, why don't you know it? Too busy swallowing fake news. Anyhow.
I think actually that not only Muslims, Christians and Jews should all have that, because I think there's way too much divorce in the United Kingdom, and that's part of the reason for the population collapse, part of the destruction of society, part of the destruction of Christianity and Western civilization. And what they've done is they've destroyed the family, they've destroyed marriage, they've destroyed the family dynamic, they've destroyed the fact that the man is meant to be in charge. And I believe that when you've got religious or social groups that are not legal, because once you bring the law into it, this is why women are like, I want to divorce this guy, I want half of what he's got, or I'm going to get this benefit, or this is going to be better for me. I think that harms marriage.
Valid points there by Solomon Ahmed. The thing that I would raise here is that Australia was predominantly a white Christian nation, European settlers and white. And there's nothing wrong with maintaining it that way, but we're not anymore. We're now a minority. White men are pussies. Israel is systematically destroying Western civilization. The threat to them being able to implement their one world government, wet fantasy, psychopathic government out of Jerusalem after they take out Iran, there's nothing stopping them then, dominate the Greater Israel Project, the Kalergi Plan, and white people are being exterminated and they're cheering on Israel. The very people that are eliminating you from society, the very people that see you as a threat to taking over the world. Oh, let's cheer on Israel. White men are basically pussies, and including a lot of white men in Australia. You won't even stand up for your own nation. You've been systematically destroyed, and you cheer it on. Let's stand with Israel as these fuckers destroy your civilization, destroy your country, and have you so bamboozled, confused, you don't know who the fuck the enemy is. They tell you Muslims the enemy. Oh, Muslims must be the enemy because Israel propaganda told us that. Of course, they want you to think Muslims the enemy and they're taking over the world, to deflect from the fact it's them taking over the world. White Christians built Western civilization, not the fake Jews in Israel. They've systematically invented taxes, systematically printed fake money, have raped and pillaged every aspect of Western civilization to enslave you. They've pushed degeneracy, OnlyFans, Pornhub, social division, mass immigration, destruction of Western values, push the feminist movement to destroy the traditional family. And what have white people done about it? Nothing. Oh, you're racist if you defend your fellow white people. No, I'm not racist. I don't care. I have no issues with immigration, quality immigration. But we were predominantly a white Australia. Why aren't we now? Did we vote and go, let's flood our country with everyone else, bar ourselves? See, let's go to India. Now, if we all white people moved to India and said, oh, by the way, we're going to flood India and we're going to make Indians minorities. Now, besides the fact that it's mathematically impossible, but take that out of the equation, would Indians be racist to go, no, we don't mind immigrants, but no, you can't do that? What if China? We said, okay, China, we're going to flood you with white people, make you Chinese minority. Would Chinese be racist to go, oh, but we want to keep our national identity, we want to remain the majority? No, that would be perfectly legit to do that. What about Indonesia? Would it flood Indonesia and dominate it, white people become the majority? And Indonesians dare question. It's like, no, you're racist, Indonesians. How dare you object to us taking over your country? Of course, it's absurd. So white people think they're racist. White people are some of the least racist people on the planet. But you know who the most racist nation on the planet is? That's right, that fake state created in 1948, telling everyone else, including you, that you're racist for wanting to defend your own traditional values, wanting to defend your own national identity. Divide to conquer. White versus black, immigrant versus natural-born citizen, gay versus non-gay, men versus women. Israel will play every card. Muslims versus Christians. Left and right are politics. They divide you. So why ever you continue to go, oh, let's support a right-wing government. I mean, play domestic politics, as we see now in Australia. Oh, it's, we have to get rid of the left-wing government. I'm not saying Albanese shouldn't be got rid of. He's one of the worst prime ministers this country's ever seen. But weak men allow weak leaders. And pussy boy Australians need to grow some balls and stand up for your nation. Stop like bowing before Lord Rothschilds in Israel. Tell Israel to go fuck itself. You want to know if you're a man? Where's all the men in Australia? I want to hear the men in Australia. I know who's a man because they publicly post and tell Israel to go fuck itself and get the fuck out of our country. Leave us the fuck alone. Stop massacring our people. Stop drumming up problems between Muslims and Jewish and Christians in our nation. And leave the Jewish alone. The Australian Jewish mostly are good people and live a safe life. They don't want this Israel fuckery here. The rest of us don't want it. Fuck off with your bullshit. If you want to go and bomb kids to death, go and shoot sniper kids in the head once or twice. Do it in Gaza, where you lie about, and I don't think you should do that. Don't do it on Bondi Beach. How about don't do it anywhere? And rise of anti-Semitism is a threat. What a load of bullshit. The rise of anti-Israel is the greatest thing this world and humanity needs. And the end of this fake state called Israel would be a great thing. Disband it as a failed experiment. Send them to Greenland or the Jewish autonomy zone in the middle of Siberia. But we won't be like Israel. Let's not erect a prison fence around them like they did to the Gazans. And let's not bomb them to death like they did to Gaza, because that would be barbaric. That would be sick. That would be satanic. Let's not be like Israel. Let's have humane decency, shall we?
This one's in Thailand.
I've been to Thailand before.
Have you?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
What comes with the island?
There's a small villa there. You could practically build what you want.
So they're building things.
Yeah, there's
Do the islands come with the children, or the children?
This island does have a small school. There are children.
Okay, so I don't know if that was a stupid.
Yeah.
What countries are near to abduct them from?
Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam,
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Of course.
The Filipinos, if they're not being a nurse, they're being your crew. Okay,
so true.
Yeah. So
what age ranges?
Below 10, I don't really.
It's very disturbing. Now we're waiting for verification. That's so citizen journalists out there, go to work on that video if you wish. See if it can be verified. But remember, these elites, most of them are pedophiles, sick, satanic individuals. Why would you stand with them? If anyone's standing with Israel, do you understand the history of Israel? It's a Rothschilds created it and 3 terror groups. Why would you be standing with that sick, satanic nation? You shouldn't be. But people are.
Shooting in Australia, we always have to ask ourselves, who benefits? I can tell you that it's showing the Muslim world. They're trying so hard to push this Muslim extremist narrative when the one hero that jumped on the shooter with no regards for his personal safety was in fact a Muslim man named Ahmed. Anyways, just after the shooting happened, as if it was time, you got the Israel Prime Minister blaming Iran to give himself an excuse to complete his carnage of the Middle East. This guy is now asking for harsher sanctions against anti-Semitism while still conducting a genocide that we're all witnessing in high definition. It's pretty unreal if you think about it. Now let's go back in time for a second and look at 9/11. Do you think the Muslim world benefited from these attacks? The whole place is torn apart. Even the Israeli Prime Minister said that they benefited the most from 9/11. And what do we get? More surveillance, more division, and more troubles at the airport. In the end, the only people who benefit from terror attacks are the demonic elite that plans them and couldn't give a damn about race or religion. They use race and religion to keep us divided while slowly putting us into this AI surveillance system. I'm sorry, but we're not falling for this one.
Well said there, and it's so critical. And I want to speak to Jewish in Australia. We all have a common enemy. Do you think Israel won't slaughter you for a second? Do you think they give a fuck about you? Well, they want your money, and they want Jewish to relocate out of Australia and around the world back to Israel to serve their own agenda. They want Jewish hatred. They're the ones that create it, breed it. They want the rise of anti-Semitism, so then they can use that to crack down on our rights, etc. So this is not a Jewish issue. Half my friends are Jewish. They're beautiful people. They're good people. They live a peaceful life. They're not bad people. So let's not make it a Jewish issue. This is a satanic issue. This is a demonic issue. This is elites. This is an evil regime in Israel. It was founded by an evil regime with immense power, but their power is fading. So let's not stand with the devil. Let's not be tricked by the ultimate devil's trick. If you're a Christian and stand with Israel, you're deeply misled or evil. I'm assuming you're deeply misled because most people aren't evil. So I want you to understand this. Instead of going, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but you follow CNN or Fox News or Sky News, and you think you know what you're talking about? We've spent years and years and decades of research on this. We know what we're talking about. You only have to look at our track record. But it's not our job to spoon feed you the truth. It's your job to discover the truth, as it is everyone's job. You have an obligation, if you live in Western society or anywhere in the world, to know the truth, to speak the truth, and share the truth. If you think but we can't do anything about it, that is bullshit. You can do something about it. And the way you do something about it is you learn and understand how the world works. Why is there wars? You should want to know why there's wars. Why do terror attacks like this happen in Bondi and innocent people are slaughtered? Why? You should want to know that answer. You have an obligation to know that answer. And if you think fake news is going to give you that answer, then you're deluded. You're mentally impaired. So you don't give me this bullshit that we can't control it. What are we going to do about it? You can do everything about it. You can get educated, you can know the truth and speak the truth and share the truth, and then you can stand up and call out Israeli supporters, call out Zionism for what it is. A dangerous cancer, a disease, a threat. The rise of Zionism is a threat to humanity. Not this bullshit rise in anti-Semitism. It's not even anti-Semitism. It's just a criticism, a valid criticism of those who wish to drop bombs on innocent children and innocent men and women. That all they care for is war, death, and misery. And if you stand with Israel, they plan to conscript young men and young women to go fight their wars in the Middle East. If you can't see the writing on the wall, then that's because you swallow fake news and you're easily manipulated. So I call out any Australian foolish enough to say I stand with Israel. I call out any Australian to say that people that stand with Palestine are the ones that cause this. So if you criticize Israel or stand against them, you cause it because Israel's going to go, we're going to go and do a massacre in Australia and blame it on Iran or blame it on Islamic terrorism, which we created. Don't be so easily manipulated. At least try and be a little bit difficult to be manipulated. At least try and put your thinking caps on and figure this out. Otherwise, you're going to look back at your Facebook posts in years to come and go, I'm a complete fucking idiot. I stood with Israel when there's so much evidence that they were behind September 11th. So obvious that October 7th was a false flag that a 5-year-old can debunk. And this Bondi massacre can be debunked by a 5-year-old. Who gets shot in the head? Who gets shot in the head and sticks around not just to take a selfie while you're in the middle of a massacre if you've been shot in the head? How do you have blood all over your face if you haven't been shot? So if you've got blood all over your face, you must have been shot, right? Okay, so if you're shot in the head, do you hang around and take a selfie? You hang around for TV interviews? I don't think so. Complete and utter bullshit. It's complete and utter bullshit. Do you arrive in Australia, you're an influential Jewish spokesman, you were sent to Australia for a specific purpose because this was being pre-planned, and you're the nominated spokesperson to be on camera? I thought you got shot in the head. If you're shot in the head, the ambulance would have took you to fucking hospital, dickhead. If they bandaged you up, they would have wiped some blood off your face, dickhead. If you actually were not a paid crisis actor or a Mossad agent working for Israel, you'd hardly be taking selfies for the libs of TikTok to spread around the world. So stop falling for this bullshit. The chances of him surviving October 7th, then being caught up in a Bondi massacre, if you ask AI, is 1 in 10 billion. And if you don't question that, then who's the fool? If you're not asking questions about the Bondi massacre, then who's the fool? You will find out in due course. It was Israel. And if you doubt that, take us up on our $1 million challenge. I'll toss you for your house right now if you don't think that to be true. Because you'll find out all too late that it is.
A Jewish Israeli Mossad agent posed as a prominent Libyan imam and then became an ISIS leader in Libya with over 200 fighters at his command. It really makes you wonder who else could be a Jewish Israeli Mossad agent. Maybe Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the man who supposedly founded ISIS. Jewish Mossad agents are well known for penetrating the structures of terrorist organizations and even nation states in order to serve the interests of Israel. The most famous example is Eli Cohen, the Egyptian Jewish spy who was given a false identity as a Syrian businessman. He moved to Argentina with tons of money and connected with Syrian elites from the Ba'ath Party, offering to help fund their rise to power in Syria. After making himself useful to a minority elite seeking power and gaining their trust, he moved to Syria. A year later, the Ba'ath Party would take power in Damascus. Cohen had gained so much trust and influence that he was on the short list for deputy defense minister before he was eventually exposed and arrested by Syrian intelligence. So, Jewish Israeli Mossad agents have a very long history of infiltrating groups, arming them, and funding them in order to help them take power, exploiting them all for Israel's gain. ISIS is no different. It's no wonder that many people have noticed over the years that ISIS never really seems to attack Israel. I mean, if they are this extremist, Islamic, jihadist organization, and since Zionist Jews always love to say that Islam hates the West and they hate Judaism and they want to eradicate Jews from the world, why haven't they ever attacked Israel? It's unusual. To quote the Israeli defense minister, ISIS serves their interests against Iran and their other allies. On a larger scale, Daesh ultimately serves to help divide entire nations like Iraq, Syria, and others into pieces. This is a key component of the Israeli strategic plan, otherwise known as the Yunan plan, to dominate the Middle East by dividing and then conquering its neighbors. Okay, so when you hear that Australian shooters are potentially indoctrinated by extremist language and then potentially even trained on an ISIS island in the Philippines, is it really crazy for us to wonder if the Mossad, the CIA, or Saudi intelligence, or perhaps even all three, are somehow involved in this? I mean, these are the same people doing 60 Minutes interviews where they brag about how the world is a stage and that they're waging war through deception. By the way, 60 Minutes is owned by CBS, which is owned by Israeli agents, and the woman interviewing the Mossad agent is also a Jewish Zionist. Oh my God, we're on to them. This shooting on Bondi Beach did not take place in a vacuum. Australia recently recognized Palestine. It also hosted its largest ever pro-Palestine march with over 300,000 people calling for Palestinian human rights and self-determination. Since the shooting, Zionist groups and aligned political actors have moved very quickly to pressure the Australian government to reverse the recognition of Palestine, to push for restrictions on pro-Palestine demonstrations, and to equate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. Now listen, if you are waiting in the near future for information to come out that proves without a doubt that Israel or the CIA was behind this shooting and directly involved in it, let me just break the news to you now. That is not ever going to happen. These organizations operate with multiple degrees of separation for a reason, in order to make any connection speculative at best, and so that they can always just simply deny it. But the information I just shared with you is enough to understand that groups like the CIA and the Mossad have always been involved and will always be involved in one way or another, directly or indirectly, in the activities of these terrorist organizations that are leveraged as proxies to serve their agenda, whether it's against the Russians in Ukraine or Afghanistan, whether it's against Iran in Syria, or against Iraq in Libya. These groups serve their interests. So what can you do about it? Awareness is key, and you should be telling as many of your friends as possible in order to wake them up. You can't prevent what they're doing, but you can help prevent what they're trying to achieve. In my previous video, I explored the Zionist psychological operation in order to have the West remember why it hates Muslims by reminding them that radical terrorism, like what took place on Bondi Beach, exists and that it's coming to harm the West, and that Palestine is somehow connected to that kind of terrorism, in order to deflect attention away from Israel and its genocide so that they can salvage their Jewish supremacist state. So the way to resist this is to not allow them to demonize Muslims or Islam. Do not allow them to divide Muslims and Christians and pit them against one another. Do not send your children to war over these lies. Do not allow them to prevent Palestinians from earning their right to self-determination, human rights, and dignity. Never ever believe anything that they say. They've already given you enough reason to know that these are the worst liars in the history of humanity. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Is there anything that I'm missing and that I need to be made aware of? Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves.
No loss.
work there. I love independent journalists and citizen journalists. It's what is saving the world. And it's what making it so difficult for these state actors like Israel and Mossad intelligence agencies to get away with what they used to be able to get away with easily. Now they're like absolutely getting exposed, which is so good to see. And as I said, they can't Charlie Kirk us all. Do never be intimidated by weak men. Any men that can snipe at children in the head not once but twice or drop bombs on them are very weak men. They're men you should stand up against.
I said, Mike, that we are fighting today the battle that the Maccabees fought. They fought for the survival of the Jewish people and the Jewish faith against an enemy that wanted to extinguish us, wipe us out from the face of the earth. We were fighting our battle, but we were also fighting the battle of civilization, because our civilization is based on the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if the Maccabees had failed, there'd be no Judaism, there would be no Judeo-Christian civilization. There would be no Maccabees. There would be no United States, there wouldn't be the civilization of freedom, the respect for our common traditions, our common values. All of that would not happen if it weren't for those 5 brave brothers. They actually made the whole difference. So that spirit animates these brave soldiers that are here today and their comrades who are fighting in Gaza or in Lebanon or in Iran, wherever is necessary to not only preserve the Jewish nation and the Jewish state, but preserve civilization against the barbarians. The barbarians are out there. They did a horrible thing to us on October 7th. They'll never do it again. But they're doing it against Jews in Sydney and Jews elsewhere in America and elsewhere. This is our common battle against the barbarians. We have won it here, we're winning it here, we'll win it everywhere. Chag Sameach, Chag Chanukah Sameach Likulchem. Toda rabba lachem. Toda rabba.
Well, you're an absolute liar, a criminal, and you need to be dealt with. Absolute liar. No one's doing it to you. We know you did Bondi Massacre. We know you're dropping bombs in Gaza. We know you're behind October 7th. Do you think we're idiots? You may be an idiot. You may be a war criminal. You lie about everything. How many wars have you got America into based on lies? We're sick of you. Your days are over. Sorry, you're going to be cancelled, motherfucker.
Oh my God, get down, get down. Boys, get down. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Are we watching a Mossad movie production? Interesting, isn't it? Don't worry, there's plenty more coming out. You'll eventually, many of you will have to say, those who don't follow you have friends out there go, independent media was right again. They told us it was Israel, and years from now, you'll find that out to be true. But some people a little bit slow end of the class, still haven't figured out Israel did September 11th, still buying the bullshit Israel narrative of October 7th, where Hamas let themselves across the border. Hamas turned off all the cameras and the security. Hamas sent IDF to the West Bank. Hamas had IDF stand down. Hamas moved the Nova Festival 48 hours before. Hamas borrowed some army tanks to blow up some Israeli houses and to kill the Israelis. Hamas jumped in some Apache helicopters, which it doesn't have. I mean, Israel, one of the strongest militaries in the world, And Hamas, had a battalion of dirt bikes and, wait for it, Air Force of paragliders, and somehow one of the strongest militaries on the planet couldn't defend their borders. Israel has a right to self-defense. Where the fuck was their self-defense on October 7th? Answer some of those questions. So if you still fall for the bullshit narrative of Netanyahu and Israel of October 7th, we're the fucking victims as they bomb the shit out of kids. They're not the fucking victims. Now the Jewish in Sydney are the victims. Yeah, victims of Israel, like all of us. Wake up, people. Otherwise, your nation will be lost. Stand with Israel instead of standing with Australia, then you're a weak pussy man. Or woman, for that matter. So we have for this episode. Folks, don't worry. We'll be back with some more controversial stuff. The truth is ugly. Don't like what we have to say here? You can always follow Sky Jews or Fox Jews or CNN. You can always be divided ping pong left and right, and play domestic politics and blame Albo. Yes, Albo's a twat. But do you think they're going to replace him when the right's going to be much better? You're going to be played, folks. Left and right is a divide. How about you support and have a nationalist leader come to power that tells Israel to go fuck itself, get the fuck out of our country. This is Australia. If you want to go and cause problems, do it somewhere else. We'll be back with some more.